singing it. But anyway, apparently Snoop Dogg doesn't even drop the N-bomb in that song, so I don't know why. Oh, hi, hey, how are you? Welcome to The Jib. This bi-weekly podcast is about the many and varied schemes of the many and varied U.S. law enforcement and intelligence agencies, organizations, and committees, and how they are stupid. Let's face it, sometimes they're funny. Join us on our merry journey through space and time. Hi, I'm Barry, and it's hard to find representative role models in the media when you're an unmotivated nobody.
I don't know, is there?
Apart from the cast of It's Always Sunny, I guess.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Seamus, and you may know me as the one of us that is actually sitting here in his boxers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's kind of unthink. Am I supposed to just ignore that for the whole of the thing?
Oh.
You know what, Seamus? I will jump in.
Hey, wait a minute.
Solidarity, brother. Okay.
I've been kept down by the pantsless society for too long.
Yes, for too long have we toiled in the darkness.
Yes.
But we're not here to discuss Seamus's junk. No, we're here to talk about Angola, which we don't talk about enough.
That was actually funny. That's my junk's nickname. It's Angola.
Angola.
Yeah.
Because it's got that weird bit at the top.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's have a look at Angola. Let's have a look at number one there.
Oh, that Angola. Sorry.
Yeah, image number one.
Yeah.
And you'll see Cabinda there.
Uh-huh.
You'll notice that's not attached to the rest of the country. It's called an exclave. That's Angola, but that's apparently that's what I've heard anyway. That's what your penis is like. So that's Angola, and that's what it looks like. Now you remember we had an episode about the Congo, and we had a big map of the Congo. That's Angola's right down underneath it, as you can see, and then you have Namibia, and underneath Namibia is South Africa. So that's where we are, right?
Gotcha.
And I have some words on a Word document here somewhere in an ideal world. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Actually, you know what? Just put up image number 2. There you go. Lusophone Africa. Do you know what Lusophone means?
Lucifer's phone?
No. And I learned this very recently. Lusophone is a word in the English language. What it means is you speak Portuguese.
Oh.
And one word for speaking Portuguese is Lusophone.
Interesting.
I assume it's related to the word Lusitania, but I don't know. Lusophone means speaking Portuguese, and all these African countries currently, by the way, speak Portuguese. So you have.
Why would they have a language based on a part of Oregon? I just never understood that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, okay. I've edited out a lot of places here, but these are the main places that speak Portuguese, or main. Lusophone Africa. The countries are Guinea-Bissau, Equatorial Guinea, Angola, and Mozambique. And all those places still speak Portuguese. If you go to Mozambique today and start speaking Portuguese, they will understand you, right?
Yep.
Okay. But we're talking about Angola, the big chunky one there in the middle. Big chunky one like Seamus's penis. Hey, all right. Angola was part of a series of ebbing and flowing African kingdoms until the Portuguese arrived. They founded Luanda in 1575 with 100 settler families and 400 soldiers, all with an eye on the local economy of copper, ivory, salt, and animal hides. As time marched on, it became clear to the African kingdoms, especially Congo, which was an African kingdom before any of the country Congo, which surrounded Angola to the north, that they pump out all the ivory they liked, but the real money was in slaves.
Of course.
Of course. Up until this point, as with most African kingdoms, the slave trade in Congo was more or less entirely internal and used with war as a tool of social control. It was kind of a closed net. Slavery and war were used as kind of social control.
What time period are we talking about again? I'm sorry?
1575.
Which, I'm not trying to be one of those guys, but I mean, sadly, that was kind of commonplace for a lot of places back then. So... Yeah. I'm not excusing it. Still fucking sucks. But
if you read the Iliad or the Odyssey or those ancient Greek books, it's essentially war is kind of a tool of social control, and so is slavery. And it's kind of nobody's really overdoing it. But what the Europeans
until Columbus came.
Well, no, what the Europeans did was they industrialized it. They industrialized slavery, and that fucked everything. Everything went crazy. Like people say, "Oh, did you know that slavery was in Africa before the white man got there?" Yeah, but like it was
in most of the world before. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a
So
completely different. Not that being a slave was a
no,
picnic or anything, but like that's misrepresenting the reason why Columbus was so disastrous for
yeah,
Africa.
yeah,
Um, so like not trying to downplay it, but it was.
nope,
It was like I'm not trying to downplay war either, but war in those before we had the machinery, the huge technology of war, it was really a method of social control.
oh yeah. I
Like
mean,
you could go
you
to
got a
war with
huge leap between like the Spanish, or not the Spanish War, but the pretty much 1900s. Once you got into World War One, it
yeah.
was fucking over. It's just a completely different animal.
Yes,
So
there's records from Native Americans that they went to war with the tribe next door just because they were there, not because they had
yeah,
any disagreement with them. Um, but if you did that now, it'd be like a genocide. You couldn't do it. Like,
imagine.
yeah, well, that's what happened with the Americans, isn't it?
Mm.
Like, I guess when the Indians saw the Americans fighting against them, they're like, "Oh, here we go again, man. No, this is different, man. This is different. We got horses, bitch." Anyway, um, in
Uh,
1579, one of the kingdoms, acting on poor intelligence, unilaterally attacked the Angola colony. Congo helped defend the Portuguese, and a political stalemate was reached with a peace agreement in 1599. King Philip of Spain and Portugal appointed Bento Banya Cardoso as governor of the now much smaller colony. He immediately set about allying himself with various local kingdoms, including the Ambangala, and by 1620 they were back up to regular business, providing a reliable and steady source of slaves.
okay.
And again, this is exactly how when you think about like how colonial imperialism works, in your head it might be they go over there and they take over, right? That's not really how it works. How it works is they go over there and they find people who have a beef with the main power, and they ally themselves with these guys who don't really agree. Say, oh, let us give you all the guns, and that's how they beat the Aztecs. That's how they beat pretty much everybody. And this is what happened here as well. They were allying themselves with different local kingdoms. Due mainly to the intransigence of the. If you hear me putting on my sensible voice, it means I'm reading the text. Due mainly to the intransigence of Europeans, slaves were the main and possibly the only export of Congo, to the point where they were, the locals, I mean, were unable to diversify the economy. What I mean by intransigence of Europeans is Europeans, when they went over there, made it absolutely clear that they had no interest in any of their ivory or any of their copper or anything. They just wanted slaves, 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 slaves. And I don't need to tell you what that will do to an economy if the people with all the money tell you to your face that they don't want anything except, say, let's say, diamonds,
Yeah.
right? Fine, we'll get you all the diamonds, right? In 1610, a friar and head of the Luanda Jesuit College got a letter from a Jesuit who was concerned about the morality and legality of running slaves, right? So this guy got a letter from a
Okay.
Jesuit in 1610, which means that this whole thing of they didn't know slavery was wrong. There was
Oh,
plenty of people at the time,
yeah.
plenty of white people,
Oh,
not
yeah.
just themselves, plenty of white people at the time who understood there was something deeply amiss with this whole slavery business, right? And
Well,
this,
even Columbus's contemporaries were fucking calling him out, like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?"
yeah, they're
You know what
people.
I
Do you
mean?
not see them?
Yeah.
I know they're a shade darker, but calm down, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this friar in Luanda answered the letter thusly. He said that there have been many learned men here and in the province of Brazil who have never considered the trade illicit. Right now, of course, Brazil would be a huge Portuguese colony at the time as well. So we're all talking about Lusophone, right? We're all talking about the Portuguese countries. He went on to say, this guy writing the letter back, he went on to say that at least they, unlike some, were converting the slaves to Christianity before selling them. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
nice, it's
Okay.
nice to see Catholic priests with their priorities in order, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. By 1615, the Portuguese were exporting around 10,000 slaves a year and were building new ports and towns to expand capacity, slave capacity, I mean. During the 17th century, Angola was the principal source of slaves who were forced into the Atlantic slave trade. From 1764 onwards, there was a gradual change from a slave-based society to one based on production for domestic consumption and later for export. As a result of the independence of Brazil from Portugal I suppose now they call it Brazil, from
Hmm.
Portugal in 1822, Portugal banned slavery in all its territories by 1869, right? Yay. In practice, it continued for long after that, boo, as a system of forced labour mainstreamed in all Portuguese colony in 1899 called Chibalo, right?
Okay.
Chibalo means the system of forced labour just in the Portuguese colonies. And Chibalo, I think, sounds much nicer than the word slavery.
Fair.
Yeah, this forced labor was banned by the first. The new now, a lot of this early Angola talk is also highly hitched up to the cart of Portugal and what's happened in the politics of Portugal. But I am in my ass because I already have too many words in this going into the politics of Portugal. I'm just going to mention
Yeah.
things that happened, and you have to deal with it. I might do a Portugal episode afterwards because the whole Salazar thing is incredibly interesting. This is not that time. This is Angola time, right? Because if someone from Angola is watching this show, they're like, God damn it, even the show about us is all about goddamn Portugal. This forced labor was banned by the new First Republic of Portugal in 1910, but by 1911, after much lobbying by the companies who were losing a lot of money, it was reestablished. Okay? Now, again, we see this with America over and over again. The companies are pushing for the government to do something, right? That's how a lot of clothing shit happened in America. It's how this happened with Portugal in Angola. So far, nothing to do with America. So far, right? Good news.
So far.
Safe, yeah. Mind you, the Portuguese were running a fair imperial racket of their own, weren't they? In 1913, Chibalo was banned again. In 1926, the right-wing authoritarian corporatist government of Salazar came to power in Portugal. I say right-wing authoritarian corporatist because he did not allow anyone to call it fascist, and if anyone identified as a fascist, they were immediately arrested and imprisoned. Many fascists were exiled under Salazar, so he was not a fascist. He was a right-wing authoritarian corporatist by his own. All right, so let's just leave it there and not worry about it. Anyway, this definitely not fascist government was very pro-colony and treated the black workers like cattle, except they probably would make more of an effort to keep the cattle alive. By 1947, 40% of the forced laborers died each year with a 60% infant mortality rate.
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't have any specific stories because I don't feel like crying, but that's the general. As other countries were winding down their colonial possessions during the 1950s and 1960s, which you will be familiar with if you listen to us, Portugal kept pushing Full Metal Jacket for a new state Portuguese empire, which made no sense on any level. At that time of the year, like in 1950s and 60s, it made no sense to be ramping up an empire. Everybody was ramping down. Black Angolans were banned from joining political parties and from forming unions. Definitely not fascist. Unions were banned. So they found other ways to organize, which were maybe a little bit more violent than they would be if they're just allowed to join unions, right?
Okay, yeah.
After World War II, various Angolan nationalist movements kicked off, led, as they generally tend to be all over the world, by middle-class urban Angolans. The Russian Revolution was also led by middle-class urban people. Portugal, brick wall, refused to deal with any Angolan efforts towards independence or human rights and called in the army instead of using the many diplomatic means at their disposal. It just wouldn't talk to them at all. On at least one occasion, they used concentration camps.
As always.
Yeah. In addition, Salazar, despite claiming the usual civilizing mission, absolutely refused to modernize anything in Angola not directly connected with slave labor. In 1960, there was no university in the entire country. In 1960.
Jesus.
Yeah. By 1961, three main Angolan independence groups were in constant battle with Portuguese forces in what became the Angolan War of Independence, which was one little slice of the Portuguese colonial war, which was also being fought in Guinea-Bissau and Mozambique. If you remember the earlier map, they all decided fighting more Portuguese at the same time. John F. Kennedy advised Salazar to give up his imperial ambitions as Angola was already turning into a chaotic mess. In response, Salazar sent more troops to defend Portuguese possessions. Now, I don't like getting into details, as you know, I like keeping it general. But there were lots and lots of independence groups, but there were three main ones. And I've cut out a whole bunch of other guys, and I've also thrown out a bunch of other independence movements because I don't feel like talking about it. But
the script is already very long.
Yeah, just know there's a bunch of stuff going on here in the background that I'm not talking about at all. There's like that little Seamus penis bit at the top that was weird looking.
Hey!
That they had their own independence movement that went through this entire thing that I'm not talking about at all because I don't have the time. The three main groups are the Movimento Popular de Libertação de Angola, the MPLA, the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola. The MPLA grew out of the Communist Party of Angola, a banned organization who decided to moderate themselves into a more socialist organization, but still basically communist. They allied with other quasi-communist organizations in Guinea-Bissau and Mozambique. It was aligned with the Soviet Union. It would later become the Labour Party and the largest party in Angola. So that's number one, right? The MPLA. Number two is the União Nacional para a Independência Total de Angola, or UNITA, the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola. UNITA started off broadly communist, like the MPLA, but over time became more and more right-wing and explicitly anti-communist for reasons which will become obvious. They were initially supported by China, and they are currently the second largest political party in Angola, like today. And then in the third most influential breakaway independence group is the Frente Nacional de Libertação de Angola, the FNLA, the National Front for the Liberation of Angola. National Front. They were essentially an anti-communist Christian conservative organization and are currently a tiny party in Angola, but before they were quite bigger. In the last election, they won 3 of 220 seats in parliament. They were based, funnily enough, in Zaire, which was what they were calling the Democratic Republic of Congo during the 1970s, which was at the time of the Civil War run by the US-supported Mobutu Sese Seko, who had arranged for the execution of Patrice Lumumba.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to know more about that, we have a whole episode about Patrice Lumumba, which I would regard as interesting. He was also Holden Roberto's brother-in-law, and we'll talk a bit more about Holden Roberto in a bit. Holden Roberto runs the FNLA. All three were very different organizations with different people in them who had different goals and different visions for how Angola should be run. In January 1961, unconnected with any of these parties, workers on a cotton plantation in Baxa de Casenha staged a protest against working conditions under Portuguese management. The Portuguese responded by sending in airstrikes, which killed hundreds of people in the surrounding villages. In February of that year, MPLA fighters attacked a prison in Luanda, the capital, and freed political prisoners being held there. In response, the Portuguese arrested 5,000 people, and gangs of Portuguese, like white people, attacked the surrounding shanty towns, killing some Angolans. And this is an account of somebody who was there.
Okay.
A white guy. The Portuguese vengeance was awesome. The police helped civilian vigilantes organize nightly slaughters in the Luanda slums. The whites hauled Africans from their flimsy one-room huts, shot them, and left their bodies in the streets. A Methodist missionary testified he personally knew of the deaths of almost 300. Right? Wouldn't be too many, but they just give them free rein. In March 1961, a similar revolt staged by an organization called the UPA took place on a coffee plantation in Bakongo. The rioters destroyed plantations, police stations, and several elements of civic infrastructure. They also killed 1,000 white Angolans. Oh, no. The Portuguese responded predictably by sending in the army, who ended up killing 20,000 people by September.
Fun.
The leader of UPA, Holden Roberto, would soon be leading the FNLA. And this is the guy who was the brother-in-law of Mobutu in Zaire. So that's why the FNLA was based in Zaire. As well as conducting all-out war against Portugal, the three factions were also actively fighting each other. For instance, right at the start of the War of Independence in 1961, some UPA, i.e. FNLA fighters, captured and executed some MPLA fighters. This kicked off an increasingly brutal series of engagements between these three factions, who were ostensibly united in the basic aim of getting rid of the Portuguese. There's a bit of Life of Brian going on, right?
Yeah.
In the early 1970s, during a meeting with Mao Zedong, Richard Nixon said, "We hope that through the work of both sides we can achieve a better situation there. The relatively complex problem is the involvement of South Africa, and I believe you are aware of the feelings of Black Africans towards South Africa."
Yeah.
So South Africa is going to get involved. Ironically, this aim of getting rid of Portugal was fulfilled not because of the violent war, but because of developments in Portugal, which is sadly the fate of much of the history of Angola is because of developments in Portugal, right? In 1974, the definitely not fascist government was finally overturned in the Carnation Revolution. That lady is, she is called Celeste Cairo. And the definitely not fascist government was overturned in 1974 in a relatively bloodless operation when she went around sticking carnations into all the guns.
Okay.
Yeah, and it kind of had an effect. And it's called the Carnation Revolution, specifically because of her. And who knows how many lives she saved just by being a mad hippie, right? So if you look at the next photo, that's the same lady, still handing out carnations. Many, many years later, she's dead now, I think. But this is like in the 2000s.
So can't ever go to Minneapolis?
I don't know, man. That whole thing is...
Oh, it's fucked. We'll talk about that before this episode.
It's close to civil war, isn't it?
Pretty close. It's going to be interesting. So we'll touch on that before the show's over. So.
There we go. Do you see that kind of red circle top right?
Yep.
That's where all the diamonds are.
Oh. No.
And you see all those little blue things at the top left?
Oil.
That's where all the oil is. Correct. Correctamundo. Okay.
So Angola is going to get some freedom.
Angola's going to get some freedom, yeah, some non-consensual freedom. And you can see...
Is there any other kind?
Put us back up there, for God's sake.
Sorry, I am an American, so...
Yeah. I'm proud to say I'm an American. Well, at least I know I'm free unless I'm in Minneapolis. Okay. Finally, just the Carnation Revolution, which I thought was a little bright spot in among the madness of this lady going around changing minds and hearts with flowers, right?
Yeah.
I'm just picking flowers. Anyway, the Carnation Revolution is when various army personnel took over the government. The new government, this new actually not fascist government, immediately stopped all military operations in all colonies, effectively ceding the colonies to the independence movements in one night, right? Which is all they had to do 20 years ago. But anyway, in January 1975, these three armies met and agreed to a framework for running Angola together called the Alvor Agreement. A crucial element of the arrangement was the makeup of the National Army, which was to be 24,000 black soldiers from the Portuguese Army and 8,000 soldiers each from the MPLA, UNITA, and FNLA. Now, don't worry if you can't keep a track of these letters. I'll be talking about them a lot, and I'm going to keep saying it until you get it into your head.
Okay.
This arrangement completely fell apart for all sorts of reasons, not least the covert arms imported to the various factions and the inability of the administrators to tell the difference between MPLA, UNITA, and FNLA members for the purposes of the army quotas. Soon, every faction had about twice as many as they should have, so 16,000 from each, completely swamping what were supposed to be the stability government forces. But anyway, Henry Kissinger.
Fuck.
There we go. Under Gerald Ford, was concerned that Angola would be an easy win for the Soviet Union in Africa, and authorized covert CIA operations to support the FNLA and UNITA.
It has become my attention that this is easy pickings.
Henry Kissinger, like how I'm missing you and wishing you were here. Do you know that song?
No.
With your crinkly hair and your glassy scare and your Machiavellian schemes, I know that people say that you are strange, but you've got no nicer legs than Hitler.
Who sings
bigger tits than Cher. No, it's Monty Python song.
Oh, fuck.
Henry Kissinger, how I'm missing you and wishing you were here.
Eric Idle's a hero.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful song. And he does have bigger tits than Cher, so... Soviet Union in Africa, and he authorized covert CIA operations to support the FNLA and UNITA. Now, the MPLA, of course, being the communists, right? This support had been ramping up throughout the 1960s and included contributions from the ever-reliable France and also the ever-reliable Israel. FNLA, I'm allowed to say that, don't worry. FNLA fighters were even sent to Israel for training. Don't worry, we're in the clear, don't worry. The CIA operation, sorry, I'm allowed to make a joke, okay? The CIA operation was called Operation IA Feature. That was the name of the operation. IA Feature, I don't know what it stands for.
Jesus.
That's what they call the
sometimes they knock them out of the park, but goddamn when they fail, it's just...
This was not one of those times. Which the Guatemala operation was called PB Success.
Yeah.
This was called IA Feature. And involved a total of $39 million spent throughout the summer of 1975 on weapons, hiring mercenaries, coordinating with regional allies, and buying up local media outlets, right? Standard CIA stuff.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Davis, the Assistant Secretary of State, advised Kissinger against the program, believing that the only possible outcome was that the Soviet Union would ramp up their military presence by a reasonable response. I know, right? When Ford approved the program, this guy, Nathaniel Davis, resigned. Oh. In later Senate hearings, Davis asked Senator Clark to not ask him any more questions about Angola because we both know about the secret CIA operation. He just told him, please stop asking me about Angola. We both know what happened there. South Africa, also a US ally, and this is the next curious word choice I found in one of the sources. Despite its apartheid regime, invaded Angola from the south. Oh. That's what it said in the source. Despite its apartheid regime, it was a US ally, and it invaded Angola from the south to support the FNLA and the UNITA in what they called Operation Savannah, while the FNLA were massing troops in the north, clearly preparing for an invasion of their own. Okay, now where those blue things are there, UNITA is there.
Okay.
And UNITA is kind of hugging the north there, and FNLA will be somewhere else.
Okay.
South Africa obviously coming in from the south. So they're doing a pincher movement on the MPLA guys, and Luanda there, the Green Star, is the capital. With the MPLA under attack on all sides, they asked for help from Soviet Russia and Cuba. While the USSR offered logistical support, they refused to commit any direct military aid. Cuba, on the other hand, in November sent 18,000 troops and some high-tech weaponry. By the end of 1976, there will be 36,000 Cuban troops in Angola in what they called Operation Carlota. Castro, this is a Castro quote, "When the invasion of Angola by regular South African troops started 23 October, we could not sit idle. When the MPLA asked us for help, we offered the necessary aid to prevent apartheid from making itself comfortable in Angola." Okay. It's valid, right? Valid and fair. Yeah. With Cuban help, the MPLA managed to drive back the South African troops down here and the UNITA troops up here, and the FNLA troops to the north and consolidate their power base in Luanda. They declared the People's Republic of Angola on November 11th, 1975, an openly communist state.
Cool.
Right? Yeah. In response, UNITA declared the Social Democratic Republic of Angola where they were, and the FNLA declared the Democratic Republic of Angola where they were. The Cuban army, composed entirely of volunteers, by the way,
okay,
they all signed up voluntarily, say, I will sign in Angola.
That's interesting.
Yes, was very effective, and eventually the two other countries were reduced to small gangs of guerrilla fighters backed by the US and South Africa. So those weren't really ever really countries. They just declared that they were, and then they were kind of whipped back by the Cuban army. In 1976, after Operation IA Feature became public, US Congress passed the Clark Amendment to the Arms Export Control Act, which specifically banned all aid to paramilitary groups in Angola. Right? Guess what happened?
I love when they're so specific about this shit.
Oh, yeah, they specifically mentioned Angola. Yeah. President Ford criticized the lack of guts of Congress on this. Oh. The US kept up diplomatic hostility to the MPLA government and funneled any paramilitary aid illegally through Israel in defiance of Congress.
Oh, so they were already onto that game.
Yeah, 1976. But it did go down quite a lot, but they were still funneling shit out from Israel. In 1977, you know what TASS is, you do?
Go on.
TASS is the Soviet press service. In 1977, TASS reported that, according to information obtained from a Soviet surveillance satellite, South Africa was about to conduct a nuclear test in the Kalahari. The governments of the United States, France, Germany, all of whom had contributed to South Africa's commercial nuclear program, and Britain, started to panic. But the South African foreign minister assured them that the nuclear program was just for peaceful use.
Sure.
The South African Prime Minister, John Vorster, did very little to calm things down in a speech a few days later when he said, the time will arrive when South Africa will have no option, small as it is, but to say to the world, so far and no further.
Right.
Now, keep in mind that there was no conceivable use for South African nuclear weapons at this time except Angola. There was no other possible use they could have for nuclear weapons except Angola. Because what else would they do with them in 1976? Right. Yeah. The whistleblower for the South African nuclear program was Renfrew Christie, who served a 10-year sentence in 1980 for handing details of the program to the ANC. Fucking champion. All right, well done, Renfrew. 10 years, totally worth it, right? In his view, there was a realistic chance that it was a realistic scenario for the South African government. A realistic scenario for the South African government would have been to bomb Luanda, in his view, right?
Okay.
With nuclear bombs. In power, they didn't. In power, the communist government more or less abolished private property and embarked on an ambitious program of improvements and industrialization, which was somewhat marred by our old friends' corruption and mismanagement. That is a picture of the Angolan Civil War as it stood in 1975, right? It went on for much longer than that. The pink areas there are MPLA controlled, the communist government, in other words. The green ones are UNITA, and the yellow ones are FNLA. The FNLA would come to have almost no effect on things, but right now you can see they're quite tasty, right?
Yeah.
And the UNITA there in the middle bits, and the MPLA is the proper government of Angola trying to run the place and doing their communist things while all this is going on at the same time, right? And there's other things as well that I'm not going to talk about because it's just too bloody complicated as it is. Yeah, those guys are Portuguese soldiers in 1975 being demobilized, having because their government after the Carnation Revolution.
So Daniel Day-Lewis was there?
Daniel Day-Lewis was there, yeah, and Tom Hanks, and a little, is it a puppy? I don't know. What that is. Anyway, they're Portuguese soldiers going home in 1975. Oh yes, the Portuguese are gone. I'm sure that's the end of all the trouble. No, bloody civil war next. The MPLA were doing their best to nationalize everything, but of course they were somewhat marred by our old friends' corruption and mismanagement, which you will find in every communist country and also every not communist country. Also in 1977, an attempted coup by the Maoist faction of MPLA, an internal coup they had to deal with as well, was defeated. Tens of thousands of people were arrested, tried in secret courts, and if found guilty, which thousands of them were shot and buried in secret graves.
Jesus.
It slowed things down. However, also in 1977, a rebel group of Congolese fighters attacked Zaire, i.e. the place that would become the Democratic Republic of the Congo, hoping to overturn the government of Mobutu. As Mobutu was US-aligned and helping UNITA and the FNLA, the Angolan government did not interfere.
Okay.
You with me? Are you with me?
Yeah.
Right. After the invasion, John Stockwell, the CIA station chief in Angola, resigned, saying that he had warned Kissinger support for anti-government rebels in the north would result in an invasion of Zaire, and that's exactly what happened.
That's surprising. I mean, not surprising that he was right. It's surprising that he actually, said fucking I'm out. That doesn't happen very often.
His Secretary of State resigned as well. The Undersecretary of State resigned.
Wow.
Yeah, over the same thing over Angola. They could see it. In the 1980s, yeah, we're moving pretty quick, folks. We're moving at a clip, right? In the 1980s, Ronald Reagan was president.
That fucking guy.
Yeah, you remember him. He pushed hard on his Reagan doctrine, which he described in his 1985 State of the Union address.
Fuck them all?
Fuck them all. Well, he dressed it up. We must not break faith with those who are risking their lives on every continent, from Afghanistan to Nicaragua, to defy Soviet-supported aggression and secure rights which have been ours from birth.
Oh, yeah.
9 countries were targeted by the intellectual arm of the Reagan doctrine, which was called the Heritage Foundation. You know this.
Yeah. It's the Monterey document on fucking steroids. It's just...
Yeah, it's the Reagan doctrine. The intellectual arm is called the Heritage Foundation, the think tank. And they were kind of making all the decisions. And the 9 countries targeted by the Heritage Foundation were Afghanistan, Angola, Cambodia, Ethiopia, Iran, Laos, Libya, Nicaragua, and Vietnam. And we've discussed a number of those. We discussed in our Operation Cyclone episode, we discussed the Afghanistan.
We should just do an episode on them at some point, the Heritage Foundation. I mean, seriously, because they've been running everything since fucking Reagan.
Yeah.
I mean, the fucking healthcare plan, the Obamacare, literally, they wrote it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And this fucking dickhead we got now, Trump, they wrote, the Project 2025. So
there's no need for that kind of language. They don't even drop the D word for Trump there.
Yeah,
okay?
Right. Yeah,
you can agree with his policies, and you can still respect the man, okay? One day you're going to get a
sometimes, Barry. I know you're a JD Vance guy, but so.
Oh, why? Because he married a foreign girl.
No, you just like Hillbillyology or whatever that bullshit book that he wrote.
JD Vance is...
That Ron Howard just loved and had to produce.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Fucking liberals propping him up and then bitch whenever we get stuck with him.
He's I don't know. A lot of the Trump supporters are incredibly weak, and I have very little respect for weak people.
Oh, I concur.
Even if they're left wing, I don't like weak lefties either.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, Angola was on this hit list of 9 countries, and we have an episode discussing the Nicaragua one. We have an episode discussing the Afghanistan one, and then we're currently talking about Angola. I also want to talk about Angola because we know shit all about Africa and African countries, and it'll do us no harm, including me, to learn more about it, right?
No, I mean the Congo one. I mean I thought I knew some bits of that, but Jesus,
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as well as that, and Westerners like me, we have a tendency to say, I think things like, oh, in Africa, this, or Africans think this, or Africans do that. Man, no. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like saying Europeans do this and Europeans do that. I mean, to an extent, but also not really. Angola was one of the very few definitely communist and openly Soviet-aligned states in the world. So they kind of had a target on them from day one, right? In July of that same year, the Clark Amendment was repealed, meaning the US was now free to send support to paramilitary groups in Angola.
Here we go.
Yes. They chose UNITA, which was run by Jonas Savimbi. And now, I know that makes him look silly, but that is the photo that Wikipedia chose to illustrate him. So I have a better photo of him. And you know what? Just click on to the next one. Let's see the next one. Number 7. Now, that's Jonas Savimbi talking to his VBF, Mr. Ronald Reagan, having a laugh, right?
Well, I don't know. Nancy might blow you if you ask her nicely. Don't call her a throat goat for nothing.
Yeah, okay. Just get it all out of your system, all right?
I could go on for hours. I won't.
This will be one time she won't be just saying no.
Yeah.
Okay. They chose UNITA, which was run by Jonas Savimbi, that guy there, who could speak 7 languages fluently, including Portuguese, French, and English, and it was more or less adopted by the Heritage Foundation.
Oh, jeez.
Now, the thing is, this guy must have been able to charm them all, because whatever way he was talking, they just kind of bought it.
Oh.
The CIA once again supplied UNITA with weapons, including sophisticated anti-aircraft missiles, and Savimbi was welcomed in Washington as a freedom fighter, quote. In 1985, a meeting to organize a resistance against the Angolan government was held in UNITA operational base in Jamba, organized in part by Jack Abramoff and lobbied for by Paul Manafort.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah. These names are coming up.
God damn it, dude.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it? Angola. What were they doing in Angola in the 80s?
Is Roger Stone going to pop up next?
It wouldn't surprise me, but I didn't see his name.
Lee Atwater. Come on, Barry. Come on. What else you got? Come on.
Lee Atwater may be involved.
Oh, fuck off.
I don't have him in the script here, but I may have seen his name. There's other people I haven't mentioned. I didn't see anything about that. What's the other? Roger Stone, no.
Yeah.
But Jack Abramov got funding for it, and Paul Manafort lobbied for it. This meeting had the blessing of the US, Israel, and South Africa, but someone had a word and explained it would not be a good look if they actually turned up there, so they didn't. However, in attendance was the nominal leader of the Contra rebels from Nicaragua, the leader of the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, the leader of the anti-communist faction in Laos, and Colonel Oliver North.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This is like the fucking Legion of Doom.
It's like the Legion of Doom. Meeting
what the fuck?
In Jamba in Angola, yeah. And I guess what they call this Legion of Doom? They gave it a name.
Oh, they call it
the Democratic International.
Oh. No notes. No notes.
No notes, zero.
Yeah.
But of course, the press got a hold of it and they called it the Jamboree in Jamba.
I think that's a little worse, honestly, but hey, whatever.
It resulted in the following resolution adopted by all. Right? We, free peoples fighting for our national independence and human rights, assembled at Jamba, declare our solidarity with all freedom movements in the world and state our commitment to cooperate to liberate our nations from the Soviet imperialists. Right?
Oh.
Yeah, it's all going horribly wrong, yeah.
It hurts. It just hurts.
It hurt to read it, it hurt to write it, it hurts to say it.
Just
so close
they have to they have to realize, right? I mean,
so close to the truth. So close. Like I told you, I have a hashtag on my Twitter now. It's like I love where you're almost going with this.
Yes.
And it's I love where they're almost going with this. The more Savimbi cozied up to the American right-wing conservatives, which I have in my script here, I've called them right-sing conservatives for some reason. The more Savimbi cozied up to the American right-wing conservatives, the more US military aid went to UNITA. The more CIA got involved, the more Cuba and Russia felt like they had to match it. That's how things worked in the Cold War, right?
Yeah.
In 1986, the USSR sent $1 billion to the government of Angola, and Cuba sent thousands more troops to add to their already appreciable contingent. In 1987, the arms shipments to UNITA escalated even more. Up to this point, the CIA would usually make their deliveries in darkness, as they did in Nicaragua and other places. But here it was, according to one source interviewed by the New York Times, day and night, quite some activity for the month of May. They were just pumping guns in day and night for all the airplanes they had. And as long as it's black people getting killed, who gives a fuck, right? In 1988, the largest battle in African history took place at the MPLA base in southern Angola, Quito Quina Valley. UNITA, backed by South African forces. Now, this is despite being materially hampered by the United Nations Security Council Resolution 418, which put an arms embargo on South Africa in 1977, which even the United States and Israel respected.
Okay.
Right? UNITA, backed by South African forces, attacked MPLA positions backed by the Cuban army. A series of incredibly complicated operations ensued, killing thousands of people on all sides. Both sides claimed victory afterwards. Both sides claimed victory for valid reasons. Nobody was deluded. The MPLA declared victory because they successfully held their positions around Quito Quina Valley, and the UNITA declared victory because they halted the MPLA advance into their territory, where if they had made it in, they would have wiped them out. So both of them declared victory for good reasons, but it was a whitewash and a massacre. And if you want to know how complicated it was, you should definitely check out the Wikipedia page for the Battle of Quito Quina Valley. Spell it any way you want, it'll pick it up, right?
Okay.
Because it was a mess. And if you can make sense of any of the things that happened in there, good luck to you. This was just one battle, by the way, in a long, drawn-out, casualty-heavy, obviously Cold War proxy civil war. In the words of one historian, this dead-end stalemate finally snapped the big powers behind the war into focus, and the United States and the Soviet Union decided to cooperate with one another to resolve this mess, which they created.
Yeah.
The US more than the Soviet Union, but also the Soviet Union. In December 1988, the tripartite accords were signed in New York by Angola, Cuba, and South Africa, part of which was a recognition of the independence of Namibia, an acceptable price South Africa paid for the removal of Cuban troops from Angola. At the time, South Africa would have been occupying Namibia. You remember we saw Namibia on map number 1, directly underneath. Yeah. South Africa was pretty much running that place. While this resolved matters from the point of view of the higher powers, meaning the US and the USSR, UNITA kept on fighting, but in a much reduced capacity. In 1989, A series of meetings were held by Savimbi and his friends to salvage the UNITA campaign against the Angola government. At these meetings, Mobutu and the president of Zaire somehow convinced him to. Zaire is a different country.
Right.
Somehow convinced him to sign a ceasefire and agree to go into exile. However, immediately afterwards, Savimbi denied that he ever agreed to exile and resumed hostilities. At one of his many speeches to the Heritage Foundation, he said, "But if there were secret negotiations or secret documents at Gebalote, which is where this meeting happened, they were secret even to me. We never participated in discussions such as these, and I am not bound to respect what is contained in any so-called secret document." So that's what he says.
All right, then.
In 1991, UNITA and the MPLA agreed to the Bicesse Accords, a framework for peace which would be mediated by Portugal, with the US and the USSR acting as observers. And again, we see that this says mediated by Portugal here, which they both accepted. But again, you'll see, even though they had independence in 1961, the former colonial occupier still feels like they have some kind of a hold on them, you know? France is the same thing with Algeria. I'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
The main points of agreement were a ceasefire, thank you, a democratic election, thank you, and the integration of UNITA into the Angolan army, which really, the whole thing hinges on the integration of UNITA into the regular Angolan army, right? Like any of these situations. In that order: ceasefire, election, integration, right? In September 1992, a general election was held. Now, isn't that a delightful map? That is the general election from 1992. The red and kind of reddish areas are MPLA. The greenish areas are UNITA and the Savimbo. And the yellow area at the top there is FNLA Roberto. You can see already the FNLA is being pretty much unseated by UNITA, but you can also tell that MPLA smashed that election, right?
Yep.
Right. The MPLA smashed it. UNITA rejected the results, claiming they were rigged, and UNITA then returned to violence. On the 27th of October, UNITA published a list of conditions for further peace talks, one of which was that only the UN could be involved in the administration of the election, which was probably something that should have happened already, right?
Yeah.
The MPLA agreed, but with the extra condition that UNITA withdraw from MPLA territories immediately. Now, this is all part of the civil war that's been going on since 1975, by the way. It's all the same.
It's a long time.
It's a long-ass time to try and live in a country. And I said this about many of our things, but imagine trying to run a business selling bread and cakes in Luanda during this time, right?
Yeah.
Just being a normal person, trying to make money. Millions of people were refugees. Apart from the people being murdered, millions of them were flown out of the country. What else are they supposed to do? There was internal displacement as well. No one's entirely sure what happened next, but because all the sources disagree, I checked different sources who were absolutely certain that different things happened. So no one's entirely sure what happened next, but it looks like after a firefight at Luanda airport, the MPLA got sick of playing nice and started directly taking out everyone in UNITA leadership. Okay. Lists of names and arms were being handed out to MPLA supporters from police stations. Several leading officials from UNITA were killed in the massacre, including the UNITA vice president and the party secretary.
So Palantir was around back then?
Maybe. They had some kind of intelligence anyway. And this was called the Halloween Massacre because it happened on the 31st of October. The total number of UNITA deaths in the Halloween Massacre, as they call it, is unknown, but some estimates range around 30,000.
Wow.
Now, UNITA in this, I guess, if you want to see it this way, are the bad guys or whatever you want to look at it. But you don't go murdering 30,000 of them, no matter who they are, right?
Yep.
That's what we were discussing before we started filming. We were discussing that as a podcast, we try to be even-handed. So that means sometimes criticizing the people that we kind of like, and it means sometimes supporting the people we don't.
Right.
Because you got to be even-handed. And if you're going to criticize somebody for doing something wrong, and you don't criticize the people you like for doing that same wrong thing, what does that make you?
Hypocrite.
Correct. And we try to avoid the hypocrisy at all times, right? We try to avoid it.
Try.
Yeah. This did not slow UNITA down, despite having their leadership liquidated and 30,000 of their members murdered. This did not slow them down. If anything, it only made them angrier. And they marched on several cities, committing all sorts of horrible war crimes along the way against people who weren't the problem, you know. On September 15, United Nations Security Council 864 was unanimous. Okay? Nothing's ever unanimous in that place. Was unanimous in declaring UNITA a threat to international peace. UNITA was sanctioned, told to accept the results of the 1992 election and to stop all their war crime shenanigans.
So they just immediately stopped, right?
No. On September 23, Bill Clinton signed Executive Order 12865, calling UNITA a continuing threat to the foreign policy objectives of the US, which in practice meant no more weapons shipments. Well, that's a lovely way to phrase it. What a delightfully diplomatic way to phrase war crimes. A threat to the foreign policy objectives of the US.
Yeah.
In 1994, UNITA and the MPLA signed the Lusaka Accords, and please, holy Jesus, can these things hold now this time, right?
Yeah.
Signed the Lusaka Accords, again an important part of which dealt with mainstreaming UNITA fighters into the Angolan army. It also, extra to previous peace deals, gave UNITA officers several key ministerial jobs in the Angolan government. Yes, we don't like UNITA, they're war criminals, but do you want peace in your country or not? You got to make these horrible sacrifices. You got to give a war criminal a ministerial post if you want peace in your country. It happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. They're scum, but you have to. Are you going to do things democratically, or are you going to start machine gunning people again? Right? It's uncomfortable.
You can put them on trial.
Yes, but then, I mean, what are you going to do? Put them all on trial? You got to mainstream them. You got to mainstream them at some point.
We'll talk about ICE in a little bit. So go on.
Those ICE guys, they're not going to jail. I can tell you right now.
Probably not, but yeah. No.
Savimbi didn't like it. Our old friend Savimbi, who's sitting beside Reagan, if you remember. Savimbi didn't like it, refused to have anything to do with it, but sent one of his deputies to sign it anyway. Also, they completely ignored these accords and kept fighting, as predicted by Seamus 5 minutes ago. From 1994 to 1999, UNITA made around $2 billion with a B dollars from selling diamonds, most of which was spent on weapons shipments from Zaire, which at this point was known as the Democratic Republic of Congo, and South Africa, right? So they're making money from diamonds and all they're spending it on is guns. It's fucking depressing.
Yeah.
It's depressing. It's a cycle of bullshit. Diamonds, guns, diamonds, guns, diamonds, guns, right? In 1996,
they are forever, Barry.
They are forever. Yeah. So as long as diamonds last, we will always have conflict in Africa. Is that the moral of the story?
Pretty much.
In 1996, UNITA and the Angolan government agreed in principle to a coalition government. But in practice, UNITA refused to allow any MPLA officers access to their control areas, which you saw on the previous map. In 1997, United Nations Security Council 1127 was unanimous again in threatening action against UNITA if they didn't abide by previous agreements that they had signed. They also banned travel for all UNITA officers and their families, shut down all their premises, and made UNITA-controlled areas of Angola a no-fly zone. This makes it almost impossible to resupply their army, even from South Africa and the ever-reliable Israel. Right? Also in 1997, Zaire collapsed. Zaire is directly to the north of Angola, which makes things even more complicated for Angola for all sorts of reasons that I'm not getting into again because that's a different episode. But the upshot is it did nothing at all to stabilize the situation. That's all you need to know about that. In 1998, United Nations Security Council 1173 was unanimous in putting more sanctions on UNITA. Now you notice none of these UN resolutions said anything about the MPLA. It's all UNITA because they're the ones causing the trouble.
Of course.
Yeah. The main provision was a ban on all diamond sales. All diamond sales not accompanied by an Angolan government certificate of origin, which means MPLA has to approve of it. And I can't see the MPLA approving of anything that's going to result in a machine gun pointed at them, right? And they also froze all UNITA bank accounts. So now we're talking proper sanctions. Now we're talking. Yeah. In February 2002, 4 years later, Savimbi was shot 15 times by the Angolan army during regular military clashes, which pretty much also put a bullet in UNITA, who were then mainstreamed into the Angolan government as a political party, thus ending the civil war once and for all. So really,
were any of those shots fatal?
Well, maybe he's like 50 Cent, like maybe he can take a few shots, like no, he died. But he wasn't like executed or anything. He was just he just died in regular combat operations.
Oh, good for him.
But that civil war, I guess, was going to keep on going as long as he was alive. And as soon as he died, it stopped pretty much immediately. Yeah. After the end of the war, Angolans could concentrate on properly building their country. Immediately following the 2002 election, Angola was the fastest growing economy in Africa and one of the fastest growing in the world, with an average GDP growth of 20% between 2005 and 2007. Wow. Now imagine what would have happened if they just left them the fuck alone in 1975.
Yep.
In the period from 2001 to 2010, Angola had the world's highest annual average GDP growth at 11%. Their biggest trading partner is China, who is helping them build an infrastructure in exchange for access to their oil and diamond markets.
Imagine that. Imagine if you as a nation wanted to work with another nation and decided, well, hey, if I help you with your infrastructure, you could give me some products that I want.
This is something China does.
Yeah.
Particularly in Africa.
Yeah.
There's an entire rail network somewhere.
There's fair criticism of China, but they're doing the right thing whenever they do this kind of shit. They're doing the same thing with South America too.
Yeah. You can tell imperialism is kind of okay if the people who are the target of the imperialism are happy with it.
Yeah.
And having an infrastructure built for them, they're happy with it. But being machine gunned to death in their thousands, not so much. Being threatened with nuclear weapons by South Africa, not so much. I know there's a rail network somewhere in Tanzania, but that there were no trains to go on it. But the Chinese built this massive rail network, and it's just waiting for something to happen. So the Chinese is great. They're building these fantastic infrastructure things for these Africans, and the Africans give them their oil and their diamonds. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
A big potential growth area is, funnily enough, agriculture, which is hampered by the Civil War's effect of driving rural people, the farmers, into the cities. This is something that happens a lot of places. It happened in Ireland. There's a touch of that happening in American history as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where farmers were driven, I suppose during the Oklahoma business, they were driven into the cities, weren't they?
Yep.
Driving rural people, as I call them here, but I mean farmers, into the cities, while also littering much of the arable land with landmines, which are still active today. Removing the landmines is going to be a big operation, and you don't want to send like live humans out into it because they'll just die. Anyway, sorry, I just forgot. The next election was held in 2008. That's not it, but leave it up anyway. The MPLA won 82% of the vote, and UNITA won 10%. Now, the MPLA won forget about that image, just listen to what I'm saying. The MPLA won 82% of the vote in 2008, and UNITA won 10%, right?
Oh my.
UNITA accepted those results.
Wow.
And now what you have is a democracy.
Yeah.
Right? You have a democracy now, because the guy who lost the election accepted the results. So now you have a functional democracy. No matter whatever happens in Angola, they are heading in the correct direction, right? Good for them. In human rights news, Angola was never a haven of human rights, no more than any African country is really. But in 2019, homosexuality was decriminalized.
Nice.
And discrimination based on gender or sexual orientation was banned.
Fuck yeah.
In 2019. Everything in that place is moving in the right direction. And I have fingers crossed and everything crossed, wonky penis crossed. The last election was in 2022. Now that's the image we're looking at here. Now, this is another hot sign of a democracy. The MPLA won 51% of the vote, and UNITA won 44%. This is the tightest election in Angolan history. And also, you know that that's a free and fair election just by looking at the results, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would hope.
That is the end of my episode, because that's very much where Angola is now. And I'm very impressed with where they're going, and fingers crossed, just don't fuck with them. Let them do their own business. Let them deal with China if they want. It's their own business. They're taking care of business. They're doing the best they can. They're a social democracy now. They're not communist anymore. They dropped the communist thing. Now they're just socialist. America seems to want to leave them alone. Hope for the best, right? For now. We'll hope for the best.
Yeah. Speaking of now.
That's the 18-year story of how America fucked up Angola. Yeah. Sorry. Speaking of now, yeah, go. This is the what's new section.
Uh-huh.
During this section of the show, myself and Seamus, we put the word CIA and the word FBI into Google. We hit the news tab, and we find something interesting or funny we think you'd like to know about what they're up to this week. Because enough about Angola in the 70s. What's happening right now? Seamus, tell me what's happening in the FBI right now.
Returning champion, dickhead, Kash Patel.
Kash Patel, yeah.
So TrueJersey.com. There's a story. Whistleblower came out about what Patel and Dan Bongino were doing directly after the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Physically, like in the real world, doing.
Yeah, all they kept on doing was trying to figure out how to spin things on Twitter, and we're more focused on that and screaming at people over the social media stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a short but kind of an embarrassing because he's in a fucking embarrassment.
Yeah.
So FBI agent resigns over investigation into shooting of
Wait. That's the whole story. That Kash Patel and this other guy, that all they were doing was talking about Twitter strategy.
Yeah, it was just it goes on.
Go on. No, sorry. Go on. Yeah.
I'd rather people want to go read it. I'm just letting them know
Sure.
about it
Yeah.
more
No.
if
I
necessary.
just wanted to. It's hard to
Yeah.
believe. Isn't it?
Yep. FBI agent resigns over investigation of the shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis. Yeah, so he did not like how it was going, and
Good for him. Nice work.
yeah, so he didn't want to lie and
He resigned.
hopefully end up in a Nuremberg trial situation, which people were hoping for, but
I
which we'll talk about in a minute.
wish good things for that man.
Yep. DHS, not the FBI, to investigate fatal shooting of Alex Preddy, which
Yeah,
happened yesterday. What's that?
They're the ones who did it, aren't they?
Yep.
So why are they investigating it?
Because that's what they do.
But there has to. Oh, fuck me. No.
Yep.
No.
Yep. So a couple things. We could do a whole episode on ICE. I actually was going to do an episode of ICE on one point before this blew up, but
You know way more about them than I do, Seamus.
yeah. If you haven't, if anybody knows, I know you know her, Francesca Fiorentina.
Oh yeah, she's fantastic.
Her show, The Bituation Room.
Oh, yeah.
She does an interview with I think her name's Jenna Butt. Apologies, Jenna. I can't remember which one was your last name. But you were fantastic. She was a former border agent, and she's been on several documentaries speaking out against how they've been over the years, including ICE and everything.
Good.
And she throws a lot of water on a lot of the claims about ICE, as in this idea that they are not trained. Now, it is true that they did have to lower the standards for those getting into ICE.
Yeah.
But the actual training is basically the same.
Okay.
The fact that they are constantly, actively, finding the ways into taking out their intended targets, and that they do this, the DHS or this other agency, which is kind of like their internal affairs kind of group, will immediately take over as a federal agency and say, nope, we have, this is our crime scene now, get the fuck out. And they always rule for the officers involved. This is a common thing that's happened. There's a documentary, I think it's called The Accident, on HBO.
Okay.
That deals with a lot of this stuff. I encourage people to check it out. But we have Gestapo running wild, and nobody's doing shit. The Democrats ensured that they got their money last week. Now the Senate might back away from that and not give them the money, but I'm sure that Chuck Schumer will find 10 Democrats to fall on the sword for him so that they'll be able to pay for it and just pretend like they tried. Tim Waltz, go ahead.
Did you see Saturday Night Live?
No.
They had a sketch on where they were talking about what's happening in Minneapolis. And one guy says, it's terrible that they're just scooping people off the streets for no reason. And there's like two black people on the panel and they just go, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And every time he says, no, it's different this time because blah, 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 blah. And the black people are like, mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so Tim Walz, the governor there, keeps saying, boy, it would be great if somebody would do something about
this. It's his job to deploy the National Guard, isn't it?
Yeah. But now he did deploy the Guard. And from my understanding, I'm sure it's just going to be like what the police have been doing so far. They're just going to be attacking the protesters and doing nothing about ICE and just stand there with their hands up their
somebody
ass.
has to, because it's going to be a civil war.
Yeah. They have to step up and actually do something and get rid of it.
They just start popping caps in people in the street.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Says a black person. Yeah, I know. Sorry.
It's fucking gross. And then that motherfucker, went on about, again, that, these are crimes in the street. We need to stand up and actually put out a campaign text to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So if you go look on my Blue Sky, pretty much every day I've been calling him a motherfucker and going after him.
That's fair, yeah.
He's just fucking worthless. He's a feckless little bitch. So, So we're fucked. It's got to get worse.
Time to grow a spine.
It's going to go worse. Yep.
If you want to grow a spine, now's the time.
Yep. I like to say a lot more, but we're up against it already, and we'll let you.
I like the protest march in Minneapolis. Was it yesterday?
Okay, but one day is not enough, man.
No,
if you're going to have a general strike, you need to do it. You don't get your demands met, then why did you do it? It's the same thing with the No Kings pep rally. It's a fucking pep rally at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going to do a general strike or do any of these things, you need to do it fucking right.
Shut it down.
Yeah, organize, do mutual aid, so people could stay from their jobs and have a daycare, have all the, work to get the
Yeah.
logistics worked out so that they can stay in the streets until the demands are met.
Talk to
That's
the
the only way
unions.
this fucking works.
The unions will be able to arrange that.
They should. But I kind of, the way our unions are now, you just, anyways. Again, I'll stop. Go ahead. You can go on to CIA now.
CIA stuff. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Well, my stuff is a bit more whimsical than the fact that America's
good. We can end on a good note then.
civil life is falling apart.
Yeah.
Daring CIA. This is the London Independent. Daring CIA ops a nasty scar in White House ties. Lawsuit claims a fake spy wove epic fantasy to steal a $350 million oil firm.
Oh.
Gaurav Srivastava is not a CIA operative and has never been. An attorney for sanctioned Dutch oil trader Niels Truus told the Independent. He's not even a US citizen. So if you want to read that, it's very funny for all the wrong reasons. Another one is the CIA built hundreds of covert websites, and here's what they were hiding.
Oh.
Beginning in 2004, the CIA established a vast network of at least 800 websites, ranging from Johnny Carson and Star Wars fan pages to online message boards about the Rastafari, spanning 29 languages and targeting 36 countries. These websites were aimed not only at adversaries such as China, Venezuela, and Russia, but also at allied nations, including France, Italy, and Spain, showing that the United Nations treats its friends like it treats its enemies. This is on MPN, and it's written by Alan MacLeod. If you want to check it out.
I love him.
He's great. I like him too. Yeah,
he covered. Well, he still is. He covers Venezuela. Just
everything. He's brilliant. Yeah. On RTE, which is the national broadcaster in my country in Ireland, ex-CIA agent convicted of spying for Soviets dies. Aldrich Ames, the Central Intelligence Agency spy who was sentenced to life in prison for selling secrets to the Soviet Union, costing the lives of a dozen double agents, has died in custody. We will definitely be doing an episode about him at some point.
Sweet.
Because I have half of it written. What? I don't know what that was.
Farting?
No, that was me making a stupid noise. Sorry. CIA chief pays secret visit to Poland amid tensions on NATO's eastern flank. Reported visit underscores close intelligence coordination between Warsaw, Washington, at a time of persistent regional instability. So the CIA director, John Radcliffe, went to Poland, right? And the next one from the BBC is my last one, don't worry. The next one from the BBC said CIA director had a 2-hour meeting with new Venezuelan leader in Caracas, and this is the same week. CIA director John Radcliffe met Venezuela's interim president Delcy Rodriguez in Caracas on Thursday. So I guess we have to restart our old series, Where on Earth is John Radcliffe? Will we have to start that again?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see if he does it again at the next episode. I might have to just start a whole new series.
Cool.
Those are my episodes, and I guess that is our show.
Alrighty, folks. So
please tell me you're recording. You are recording.
Yes. Good. Yes, we are recording. We'll be back in 2 weeks with something. I don't know what it'll be.
Thanks for joining us, and good luck to Angola.
Bye.
Bye.